Hi guys, welcome back to the Jack Revell Show. Now today I have a wonderful, wonderful guest, and I've been looking forward to having JP on for a long, long time. He is a high performance coach, a professional speaker, multiple author, and in my opinion, a master energy giver to anybody who wants to play a bigger game. So I'd love to welcome JP De Villiers. Welcome to the show, sir.
Jack, thanks so much for having me, man. I'm glad that we're finally sitting down and doing this.
Absolutely. And sitting down being the operative word, because it was not too long ago that you were doing some mammoth tasks in terms of moving around. We'll go a bit into that later, but I just want to check, how are the legs? How is your body recovered after a 3 back-to-back marathon run?
I would say from the marathon, they're 9.9 out of 10 in terms of my recovery and being back to normal. Obviously, I've still got stuff from my accident that I deal with every day: stiffness, tightness, lack of flexibility and stuff, lack of strength. But I can feel a little lump in my ankle. Like I had a lot of swelling in my feet from the challenge, but I'm pretty good.
Good. That's good to hear.
Like I said, I went for a run the other day. It wasn't very far, 2 miles, but it's a start.
Absolutely. You got to build on that. You got to build on that. So I'm good. I'm glad that because I saw some stuff on your LinkedIn and your Instagram where you were in crutches a few days after, and that didn't fill me with hope, because it wasn't too long after I was doing a big run of a similar distance.
Exactly. I mean, respect and well done on your run. Your run wasn't really, that short or that much shorter than mine. But it was definitely that last few hours that I put my body through something that I think it was the hardest thing, because sometimes you forget stuff that you've been through, but I think it was the hardest thing that I've ever done. And it's crazy what the mind can do. I know so many people speak about it, but I got myself to the end and I kept saying, I'll get to the end, I'll get to the end. And Jack, it wasn't even like a few days afterwards. It was when I crossed the virtual finish line from there to the front of my door, at my house. We're talking 200 meters. By the time I got to my front door, I could not bend my legs. I couldn't bend my knee. I couldn't bend my ankles. And then everything just started swelling up. And the next morning, I was so grateful because of my accident. I was like, I cannot walk. I literally cannot walk. I looked like I had elephantitis in my legs, just massive swelling, redness, purple bruised knee just from running. And then I remembered, man, I've still got my crutches in the shed. And I was like, thank God. Thank you, universe. So yeah, I was on crutches for only like 2 days, but yeah, I was very grateful that I had those crutches.
But the important thing is you finished, you raised a lot of money for charity, and you
Oh
put
yeah.
yourself through essentially a physical, mental, and spiritual barrier of your own, which you now have, as David Goggins says, raised the bar on what you were capable of before, which is
100%.
amazing. So congrats, man. I feel honored to be able to talk to you about this, but also very proud that I was able to see it and experience it and sort of follow along with what you did on that day. So yeah, you should be super, super happy.
And you're actually one of the reasons. I've got a few reasons why I did it. I'm sure we'll go into it, but you're one of the reasons, not you, Jack Raval, but the fact that I inspired you to then go do a run. That was one of my big reasons for doing it. In the time that we're in right now, there's so much suffering and there's so much uncertainty. And I've said for a while now that in times of uncertainty, we have at least got to remember who we are. We've got to have the certainty of who we are. And you find your own certainty in times of uncertainty by attacking it. And you don't have to wait for times of uncertainty to come to you. You can create it. And if you can attack uncertainty, attack the unknown, you become certain in the process. So I wanted to do it to inspire other people to to attack uncertainty. So
And it worked, because I'll be honest, and for everyone listening, to give you some context, JP ran 50 kilometers. He was the first person in the world to run 50 kilometers live on Clubhouse, to raise awareness for, who he was and what he was doing, but also just to show that you can do things like such an amazing achievement while doing something so cool at the same time. And I saw that and I was like, that's an amazing thing to do. and thought, well, okay, maybe I could do something similar. Maybe I could sort of use leverage, Clubhouse to do something of a similar value. And then it was by chance, by universe chance, that a friend of mine actually messaged me and said, hey, would you like to run a big ultra marathon event on the 13th? It's going to basically be kind of how many Ks we can do in a day. And I just thought to myself, okay, well, how many could I do in a day? I know what my marathon time is. I know roughly I reckon I could do 100K. And then it just came out of nowhere. Let's do 100K, raise some money for charity while doing it on Clubhouse. And the seed was planted. And as I said, you were the inspiration behind that. And it created such an amazing vibe. And you even came on the call towards the end of it and gave me the most much needed encouragement I needed at that 86-kilometer mark, because my feet and legs and mind were spent.
And I'm so glad that you can now say, and I can now say, that you are the first person ever to run 100 kilometers whilst running it live on Clubhouse. And until you can find some kind of proof dated back to that date that someone else did it, that officially is your claim.
We're gonna give each other a virtual high five here, because that is good stuff. Anyway, JP, what I wanted to talk to you today about is a lot about kind of what we discussed already, but what I'm really interested in is high performance. Now, I work in the coaching space as well, and I come across this word a lot. And it's you could say it's a buzzword, you could say it's a powerful word, you could say it's a directive word. The first question I have for you is, what does high performance mean to you?
High performance for me means recognizing that you're already doing a great job, but inside you can do better.
Okay.
That's what high performance is. Like, it's not, there's a big difference between normal coaching or life coaching and high performance coaching. Like, life coaching is like, I have a problem, help me fix myself or my problem or my life or my relationship, whatever the problem or situation might be. High performance coaching is, I'm coming to you because even though I'm playing a good game, I know I can play a better game. So high performance for me means tapping into that knowing and tapping into that awareness that regardless of what anyone else thinks or knows about you, that you can play better than you're playing.
So then why get into this? What gives you the passion and the energy to help people play a better game?
I grew up in Cape Town, South Africa, and I lived there for 20 years of my life. I was a victim of my circumstance. I was a victim of bullying. I was I say a victim, what I mean by saying victim is I thought that I was because of my life. I didn't realize that I could create my own life. And when at the age of 23, after I'd moved to the UK at the age of 20, left South Africa for a new beginning, new opportunities, a new life, decision by decision by decision, like all of us, I ended up going in a certain direction. And at 23 years old, I realized that I was in a place that I didn't want to be. I was a hedonist. I was a party boy, sleeping around, DJing. And I thought, because I was so uncool and unpopular and not accepted growing up, I thought I'd won. But then when I was left alone after being out on a bender, DJing for New Year's Eve and being on my own, I thought, this isn't success. This might look like it on the outside, but how I feel right now, this is not success. And I remembered 10 years prior to that moment at 23, when I was 13, I witnessed someone else going in that same direction, decision by decision by decision. And it was my father doing what looked successful, but not going after what made him happy and not fulfilling himself and creating his life from the inside out, rather trying to create it on the outside and expect it to fill him up on the inside. And at 13, when I was 13 years old, just after our birthday, we shared the same birthday, my father and I, and my father decided to take his life at 40 years old because he was so unhappy. So at 23 years old, I said, hey, I came to the UK on my own at 20. So decision by decision, I must have got myself to where I am now at 23. I don't have anyone to blame because no one was sitting on that plane with me. It was me with me. Therefore, I am responsible. And I can only think of it as a gift from God or the universe. That moment of awareness was the most pivotal moment of my life. Not even my father's death. because I realized that everything that I had done in that last 3 years took me to where I was, and it was no one else's fault. It was just my responsibility. So I went back to the UK after that DJ gig in Riga, Latvia, and I said, you know what? If I can decision by decision get to where I was, if I can learn to make new decisions, I can go in a new direction. And it wasn't rocket science. I came there neutral. I came there a blank canvas. I created my life in every moment. So I got a coach, and decision by decision, I started to change my life for the better. And as I became obsessed about figuring out how I can be better, it just showed. It showed it to me, it showed it to the people around me, and then it showed it to the whole world. Opportunities came my way, healthy, beautiful relationships came my way, business and work opportunities came my way. And at 25, after 2 years, Jack, I realized that not only was I able to go from suffering to surviving and save myself, but I was thriving. And all I had done was made tweaks to who I was day by day by day by day. And now almost turning 40 this year, what a significant year for me. Still, I say to everyone, you change your life one day at a time, one decision at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time. So at 25 years old, I realized I had so many tools and I could never get my father back. But if I could have given my father what I had learned in those 2 years, not only maybe would he have survived, but maybe my father would have thrived and become the very best version of himself. So here I am on the road to becoming my best version of myself, which, by the way, is an ongoing journey. There is no finish line. There's always another level. But I thought, hey, I could have done that for my father. And then I thought, hang on, as long as I stay a student and I'm willing to share and teach what I know, I can help people do this for the rest of my life. And in that moment, bro, I didn't even know what a coaching profession or career looked like. I just remember I was in a gym in London. I was 25 and a half years old. And I remember saying that for the rest of my living life, I will continue to study how to be better. And every time I find something that works, I will share it from my heart. And I've been doing that for 18 years, 2 years, my own client, me being my own client, 16 years as a paid coach, then speaker, author. And yeah, I'm just grateful, man. I'm grateful. I'm not perfect, but I'm always getting better. And I'm so blessed that every time I find something that works, I'm able to share it with amazing people all around the world.
Thank you for sharing the story. I think, first of all, it speaks volume about your journey into who I see you as, because I've only known you for probably about a year or so from finding you on social media. And what you're saying there totally resonates with how you show up online on a day-to-day basis, because you are exactly that. You are showing people how grateful you are to be here, doing what you do and helping people with their challenges and their struggles and becoming a best version of themselves. You know, I get inspired by seeing everything you post and everything you do. And this is why I wanted to interview you. It's why I wanted to bring you on here, is because I wanted to sort of pick apart exactly what that does for you over the last 18 years and for the next 18 plus years going after this. So what does it feel like and what does it look like to get to your peak performance? You mentioned that it's a sort of a constant learning process. But how can we recognize that? And what stages do you know? How do you sort of know when you've hit a certain point where you go, yeah, okay, I've hit the next level, and then reach above? What happens for you then?
So peak performance or high performance, when you're performing at the best or the highest version of yourself, or at least in that area, it's a state. It's an energetic state, and rather than just a physical state like physical fitness, I call it life fitness. What does high performance or peak performance mean? I'm ready, right? It means I'm ready. And if you look at physical fitness, where I came from, being an athlete growing up, and when I got into coaching in my 20s, I started with fitness coaching because it's all I knew. And quickly I moved into mindset coaching. But in physical fitness, the definition of fitness is a state of readiness. So when someone is training in the area of physical fitness for an Ironman or an ultra marathon or even a marathon or even a 10K, when you get to that start line, to that moment in your life where you've got to go to war or got to go to work, whatever is more relatable to who's listening. Your ability to do that thing comes down to how ready you are. And that's what we call fitness, right? If you say, I'm ready on the start line, it's because you've trained, you've done the work required to get you to that state of readiness. Now, I realize in my life that physical fitness is not enough, but it is incredibly important, because if you're physically fit, you can be ready for things that are coming your way, and you can work longer, you can push harder, all those things. But there's other areas. That's why I call it life fitness. Life fitness has three parts: physical fitness, mental fitness, and spiritual fitness. Mental fitness is your ability to focus, to create powerful meanings from everything that you go through, the ability to attract and find the right people in your life, the ability to have focused goals, use positive language, everything under focus, basically, and mindset. And then spiritual fitness is where you find things like forgiveness, gratitude, mindfulness, appreciation. And these are the things that allow you to get through the deepest, darkest valleys. To even when you are resilient and strong-willed in your mindset, as you've got an insanely strong body or fit body, but you're able to keep yourself grounded and present in life, because you never run too fast towards your future and you're never running too quickly away from your past. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's for me what high performance is. It's a state of readiness, and it is three areas, calling it life fitness, and it's mental fitness, physical fitness, and spiritual fitness. Now, anyone listening to this, you can already score your current state of readiness in these three areas. How well am I performing in my mindset? How mentally fit am I? How physically fit am I? Think of what I shared before. How ready am I? How ready am I mentally to attack life in my day? Same for body, same for your spirit. If you lost a family member right now, if you lost the person that you love the most right now, or you had your legs taken from under you right now, how good is your spirit going to be at dealing with that adversity and challenge? That's incredibly important, because as long as you have a high level of spiritual fitness, what does that look like? It looks like this. Regardless of what's going on in your life, you always believe that life happens for me, not to me. Now, how to measure that, I'll say it very quickly, apologies. How to measure this, right, is what I call the 4 pillars of peak performance. And it's focus, fuel, fitness, and function. Our focus is where our head is at. Our fuel is where our consumption is at. What are we consuming? Food, liquids, and also information, right? That will determine our high performance. I don't let my clients watch or consume things that actually take their energy away. Fitness, that's a given. And then function comes down to our relationships and our environment. Any person that is looking to be a high performer in life, you've got to measure these 4 areas. And like a table or a chair, these are the foundations of your own strength. You get these 4 right, get your head right, your fuel right, your fitness right, and your function right, meaning your relationships and your environment, you will perform well. And if you look at performance coaching in areas like Formula One, that's all they do for the drivers, right? What they're doing is they're protecting their head and make sure that they've got the right things in their head. They've got the right things in their body in terms of fuel. They're moving in the right way every day, moving on their biomechanics and their energy and their breath and fitness and strength. And they're protecting their environment. They're removing anyone and everything that is not allowing that person to perform at their best. So that's my answer for that.
I love it. And it makes so much sense, because as you said, the foundations for what we build our life upon is so crucial, because, you know, you could build the biggest empire in the world, but if it's on shaky ground, it's going to collapse at some point. So my question to you around that is, what are the most common challenges that people find when it comes to wanting to be a peak performer? You know, of those 4 foundations you just mentioned, which are the ones that commonly people trip themselves up on?
Number 1, making it more complicated than it needs to be. Change and transformation isn't rocket science, but generally high achievers, they think way too far in the future, or they put too many things on their plate. I'm a student in this area. If you listen to the audio of this, I'm sticking my hand up right now saying I'm also one of these people, or at least I have been for a large majority of my life. I just messaged a client just before this podcast, and I said, I always say this to you, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a marathon, not a sprint. If you try and sprint your way into your future, let's use fitness as an example. What happens if you want to go on this fitness journey? You want to become the best version of yourself. You go from the start. What happens? You burn out, you bonk, or you crash and burn. It happens with every single athlete in the world. You have to stay slow, stay grounded, stay measured, and every single day fall in love with progress, not the destination. And as long as you can make progress every day, you will get to where you want to go. It probably won't be how you expected by the time you get there. But if you focus just on making progress, you'll get to where you want to go. And don't judge the progress, observe the progress. We don't, in terms of removing suffering from our own life, all suffering is created in the mind. And, you can look at two people in a concentration camp. One person is thinking this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And then another person saying, I'm learning lessons from this experience, like Viktor E. Frankl, A Man's Search for Meaning, one of the best books I've ever recommended in my life, saying that, we create our own meaning in everything that we're going through. And for my clients, I usually say to them, hey, man, what can we fall in love with today? What changes did you make? What progress did you make? So that's the first thing. Number two, one of my mentors said this line to me once. He said, JP, if you're doing it alone, you're doing it wrong. Many people wanting to get the best out of themselves generally have a high level of certainty, right? We're not talking about life problem people here. We're talking about high performance problem people. They know they can be better, and they want to play a better game and a bigger game. Thinking that you can do it on your own is foolish, because it'll become difficult. You'll hit plateaus. You've got no one to hold you accountable. So one of my mentors said this thing. He said, we're talking about someone else, and we're saying, if you're doing it alone, you're doing it wrong. You've got to have the right people around you. I actually shared something I have a WhatsApp group of my most high performing male clients, that kind of like a boys club, fitness and business boys club. And I shared a post in there the other day, and I said, guys, remember this. I said, when it comes to high performance and what it takes to win, I said, this is what we see. And I put a picture of Lewis Hamilton holding 2 trophies. I said, this is what we see. And then I put a follow-up picture with the words, this is the truth. And it's a photo of Lewis Hamilton with about 50 people all behind him. It doesn't just take the one person to win. It takes a whole bloody team. Never, ever think that you're that good that you don't need people behind you. Why are you the most, you're the most paid sports person ever, or one of the most. Someone's going to argue that, right? So I'm going to say one of the most. Lewis Hamilton is the richest sports person ever, but he's got like 50, probably more than 50 people. I could send you the pictures that I'm talking about. It really takes a team to win.
It's so true. I think that what you mentioned there about, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And it's so true because, I think the thing that, I'm putting my hand up as well saying this, that the thing I've struggled with over the years is in the businesses I've started, it's hard to sometimes know where to get that help from, and also what part of you need help with. And I think one of the hardest things that we deal with as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as just humans, is understanding what our weaknesses are, and then putting our ego to one side and allowing somebody else to come in and help us with that going forward. So what is your best trait and how do you leverage it? And then also, what is your worst trait and how does it hinder you?
Man, you're a great interviewer. I'm really enjoying this conversation. So my best trait is truth, is being honest. I don't know, can you call that a trait?
Absolutely.
Sometimes I think, does that make sense what I just shared?
Well, yeah, of course it does, because some people don't tell the truth, so therefore it's a
Yeah, I'm not
learned
sure. It's not really
ability.
a behavior. Yeah, I guess an ability. Yeah, it is
Mm.
an ability. The ability to tell, to live in truth. And I believe that there's three areas to. If someone says, "Oh yeah, I really value truth," sometimes you got to really, because it's easy to be truthful with others. It's crazy easy.
It is.
It's harder. It's harder to be honest with yourself, and it's even harder to allow others to be honest with you. And I say, with total humility, that I am very, very good at this. Very good. Like, I'm always saying to people, like, tell me like it is, man. Like, you cannot offend me. You cannot offend me, because your feedback is my feed forward. I can, either I move away from you or I take in what you've said and I use it to grow and become better. So that's my best trait, is being really honest with myself. I'm not perfect at it, but it's at the center of what I value. I've shared before that on my gravestone, I wanted to be very clear what I stood for. And if people come to my gravestone and they see between my birth date and my death date, I want there to be two words: truth and love. And I really wanted to be very clear to everyone that that's why JP was here, to be love and to be truth. My worst trait is, and it comes from unconditioning myself from everything that I had witnessed growing up. It's I still work too bloody hard. I still work too bloody hard. And it's because I grew up in a reality that all I experienced was more work, more work, more work, more work, more work. Gotta work, can't have fun, leave me alone, I'm working. That's all I ever saw. And also, unfortunately, at that time in my life, where and when I grew up, the reality that was painted in the canvas of my mind was that you get through school, you work very hard, and then you go get a job, and you work really hard at that job. And if you can get a pension fund, and just work, don't complain, just work, 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 keep your job. Maybe you'll be lucky enough to keep it for your whole life. Like my stepfather, who was my role model, had the same job, came home, complained all the time, but and then get to be able to retire at 55 or 60 or whatever. And yeah, just it's been a crazy journey in my life, Jack, of unconditioning that. I mean, I'm a completely different person. I live in meditation and nature and gratitude, and I'm always serving, but I still find myself going back to this thing of feeling like I need to be working hard and busy. But like I shared before, there's always another level, and I'm many, many levels above, beyond, and deeper than I used to be. But I'm still on the journey.
I'm just painting a picture in my head of you kind of climbing this metaphorical mountain and then kind of seeing the below bit where you used to be and kind of going around it and keep going up and up and up. So yeah, it's a beautiful image. What stops you from going back down to where you were? Like where does the sort of, you've got this abundance mindset that is clear, and everything you do and everything you work towards, you are clearly looking to be the best version of yourself all the time. But what trips you up? What sometimes pushes you to the point where you're like, oh, I can see myself slipping down the mountain again? How do you first of all catch yourself, and then what do you do to put yourself back on that good path?
So growing up, once again, another great question. I grew up for the first 20 years of my life, probably more, probably till maybe 23, 24, never believed in myself. Never believed in myself. I thought life was happening to me. I thought every other kid had everything else more than me. More love, more fun, more money, more friends, um, more compassion from others, um, more support from their family. That's how I grew up. Whether it was true or not, it doesn't matter. That's the world that I'd created for myself in my mind, and therefore it became my truth, which is, what is the truth? Our truth that we create in our mind is the truth, and that became my truth. So In my 20s, when I got into coaching, I got into things like NLP and neurolinguistic programming and conditioning my mind and understanding why we as humans do what we do and studying human behavior and psychology and sports psychology. And I started to change my beliefs in myself. But sometimes they creep back because, for example, when I started coaching as a fitness coach, I was charging £45 an hour. Now, that's the standard, or that was the standard personal training rates back then. But that's like 1,000 South African rand an hour. So I'm like, oh my God, how can I charge? This is crazy. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And of course, then you go do the work required to build your belief and to build the evidence. And I'm going to come to that in a bit. But because it still creeps up many years later, it's because I'm at a different level. I'm at a point now where I'm looking at going from from 5 figures in terms of invoicing a client to, I'd love to in the next year invoice 6 figures to a single client. But all kinds of shit, even now when I say it, comes up. All kinds of shit. Who are you to do that? You can't charge 6 figures. Only the Joseph McClellan's, the Tony Robbins, that's how much they charge. You can't charge 6 figures for one client. I've done it for a company, but not for one client. So from 50 quid to whatever, 100 grand for one coaching contract, the number's irrelevant. The point is we are where we are in our life because we don't believe we can be anywhere else. That's it. If we believe we could be somewhere else, somewhere better, somewhere further, somewhere higher, we'd be there. Or we'll be on our journey there. And when you get to that next level, right, let's use money again because it's a very easy example or something easy for people to relate to. When you go from £50 an hour to £250 an hour, you got to work on your beliefs. And then you settle there. This becomes the new you, Jack 2.0 or JP 2.0. And you just stretch yourself to be able to get to that point by doing the work required for you to get there. And you believe in yourself. And as you sign up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people, as you have more clients, more testimonials, you build more evidence. The longer you do it, the more clients you have, you're building evidence. And of course, like in a courtroom, the more evidence you have, the more you can determine what the truth is. And if you have enough evidence, you can even get to a point of a conviction. So with evidence, we create our own convictions, good and bad. Not just good. We're always creating evidence. The question is, what are we looking for? What are we focusing on? What are we creating? All thoughts, none excluded, create or destroy. The question is, what are we choosing to think and focus on? Because either in every moment we're creating or we're destroying. So at every level, you get to that new point. You're like, you stretch yourself. You start creating the evidence. You get to a point where it becomes comfortable. You don't need to do the belief work. You don't need to work on your identity. This is now who you are. And then, of course, you say, hey, it's time for me to up my rates. I've done more courses. I've been to, done this qualification, whatever it may be. Then you get to a point where maybe it's a new job, a new position within the job you have. Maybe it's setting up a business, or maybe it's just being where you are and increasing your rate or the time, or increasing the investment for your product or service. And you're going to have to do that same work. You're going to have to do that same work. And there's always going to be that inner belief, that identity stuff that you need to work on. Otherwise, you'd fucking already be levitating down the road. You'd have millions in the bank. You'd never work because you'd have no limiting belief. But we all have some kind of limiting belief or limiting beliefs. It's just a matter of finding out what those are. So that's the thing that lets me down, is my own belief in myself. But it's not, oh, JP, come on, you're doing a really good job in the world. Like, you got to, I know that. I've written 6 books, 2 bestsellers. I've been a professional Muay Thai fighter, Ironman, like all that stuff. It's my beliefs are at the next level. It's at my level that I'm at. Not, I don't need you to, tell me that, you've got to believe in yourself. Does that make sense? And how I deal with that, I kind of alluded to it. is it's to do this exercise, and I do this with all of my clients. It's to build a certainty list. I've been building these, creating these, since one of my coaches, a female coach, one of my best coaches in my life, a lady named Michelle Zelli in Richmond, the Richmond village in London. And she taught me in my mid to late 20s to build an evidence list. And she taught me this thing that is, the more evidences you can create, the more certainty you create. And I still do it. I'm 40 now. I still do it for my clients. If we want to change their identity, change their beliefs, I say, right, let's build a certainty list. And how it works is like this. Let's say, for example, I'm not going to use money again because money is a great example, but I'm not all about money. So let's say, for example, recently I ran 3 marathons in under 24 hours. But I just had my legs broken from the accident. I don't believe if I can do this. I don't believe I can do this. All right, let me go create a certainty list. So the evidence / certainty list is going to give me more belief in myself that I can do this. So I start writing things like, right, my goal is I want to do 3 marathons in under 24 hours. Now, to everyone listening and watching, use your own thing. Think of a goal that you don't think you can do, or you already don't believe that you can do it. And now I want you to use your own stories, but I want you to, this is just an example, do it in your own way. I promise you, if there is anything in your life that you are not sure that you can do, this will help you. So what I did was I said, okay, the goal is 3 marathons in under 24 hours. Where is there evidence that I can do this? So first of all, I can look at other people, right? I can look at the Jacks. I can look at the Tony Robbins. When he changed his career, he was something like he was in the middle of the night. I can't remember the story, many years ago. And he said, enough is enough. And he ran like 50 miles or something like that in a bloody suit. Or you can look at David Goggins, the ultra marathon runners of the world, David Goggins, Rich Roll, Dean Karnazes. You can look at the Iron Cowboy right now, right? The Iron Cowboy, James, is doing 100 full Ironman races in 100 days. Even just thinking of that, I'm thinking of doing 3 marathons in 24 hours, right? If I just take for a moment, hang on, that guy over there is doing 100 Ironman, including a marathon every day for 100 days. What's that going to make me feel about my goal? Come on, man, this is a piece of piss. You can do this. But also what we can do is we can really go to the dark night of our soul, to our deepest valleys in our life. And you can say things like, hey, man, I was 23 years old. I thought I had life all figured out, and ended up at the lowest moment of my life, intoxicated with cocaine, ecstasy, MDMA, yellow fingertips. I'm sitting in Riga, Latvia, having DJ'd all night and feeling just like I'm a failure. If I can get myself out of that moment, come on, JP, you can run bloody, you can put one foot in front of the other. JP, you came home from a cycling race when you were 13 years old. You couldn't wait to tell your dad. And you found out that your dad had driven to the beach and driven his car into the sand dunes and taken his life. If you can get through that, my brother, you can get through 3 marathons. So you can go to the deepest places or the darkest places, or you can go to the most inspirational places and inspirational faces. Look at the people that are doing amazing things in the world. Now, I've only mentioned 3 or 4 things to you. 3 or 4 different evidences that would give you more certainty. Imagine if you created 100 pieces of evidence. You just put your shoes on, you just run. And this goes the same for going after a relationship, going after a job, building something, creating something. You need the evidence, because if you don't have the evidence, you cannot have a belief. All beliefs come from evidence, and the evidence is there. You just got to be willing to find it.
What comes to mind, first of all, is it's about measuring not where you, like what distance you've covered, but what you've gained in that distance that's important to you. So you could go through an amazing amount of life experiences and it could take 20 years. But if one thing in that 20 years makes you the better person you are today, that gain is way more important than that gap. And I think that is what I'm taking away from what you just said, because the things you've gained in your life that have led you to the point where you are today, whether they take 10 years, 20 years, or 100 years, it still makes you the person you are right now. And those experiences have shaped you into the person you are today. And I think that that evidence list is a great tip, because so many people forget about what they've done in their lives. I use an analogy quite a lot whereby everybody's climbing their own mountain, right? And if you keep concentrating on where you're going, a lot of the time it's just about putting one foot in front of the other until you hit the peak. But every now and again, if you just take a second to turn around and look at the view of the distance you've covered, it always gets better the higher you go. And that's exactly what you've just alluded to, is that, you know, if you actually just turn around for a second and create that view, create that evidence list that shows I've done amazing things in my life. I've tackled adversity. I've gotten over myself. I've gotten out of my own head. I've pushed myself through boundaries to get myself to the point where I can do the thing I said that I couldn't do 5 minutes ago. Powerful, man. Super, super
Yeah,
powerful.
absolutely. And I use that a lot, the climbing the mountain metaphor or analogy. There's always someone above you, there's always someone below you. Just find your own zone and keep climbing, but also remember to keep looking back. And actually, when I was literally knocked off my feet in 2019 when I was cycling across the UK, hit by a drunk hit and run driver, left for dead on the side of the road. I spent a long time in recovery, but I set a goal, a stretch goal, and it was to climb the fourth highest mountain in the world, the highest freestanding mountain in the world, which is Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the roof of Africa. And I'll tell you, it was because I talk about this metaphorical mountain, just like you've referenced to twice in our time together today. It was so funny, Jack, when I was climbing, because I was climbing with a very small private group of friends. And when things got too tough, the guides would say, guys, stop, look back. And I laughed because I thought, man, that is what we need to do in life. So they obviously, having climbed it 25, 40, 50 times, when they would see us struggling too much, they would remind us to stop, stand up, because obviously when you're climbing, you're kind of leaning forward, stop, stand up. And they would say, guys, look at the view. And then you would just stop, and you just for a moment, you would forget about how much you were suffering. It really is literally a great thing to do, and also metaphorically it's a great metaphor for life. Stop and appreciate the view.
I bet that's high on your evidence list of things that you've accomplished, especially after being hit by a car. And just to dive a bit deeper into that, what was going on for you when that happened? Because obviously it's quite recent in respect to what we've talked about today. Was that a moment where you thought, oh shit, this is it, I'm falling back down the mountain at a speed that I can't control? Or were you able to really take some time and zone in on what's happened and just kind of focus in on the situation and go, right, what can I do from here?
Do you mean at the accident?
Sort of actually at the accident, I suppose it was a shock, but also kind of the few days after that, when you realized the intensity of your injuries and kind of what it had done to you, not just up here
Yeah,
mentally, but
yeah.
also physically.
Cool. So first of all, just so everyone knows, I don't actually remember the accident. I have post-traumatic amnesia. So it was just explained to me that it was so traumatic that my brain said, you're not going to remember this. So I don't actually have any memory whatsoever. The last thing I remember is I got hit at about 7 p.m. I remember, I think like 5:30, 6 p.m. cycling. That's the last memory I have. And then I woke up, even though because I wasn't unconscious, I wasn't in a coma, I didn't have brain damage. Thank God for a helmet. Bro, we would not be having this conversation if I thought I was too cool to wear a helmet. I'd be dead. Uh, there's there's no way in hell I would be in hell, in heaven, on earth. There's no way I would be here. So I'll never ride without a helmet again. It's like, jeez, I'm so grateful. So I don't remember anything, but because I wasn't unconscious, I was actually conscious the whole time, but I only have memory from day 10 going into day 11 of being in intensive care. I was in intensive care for 2 weeks in recovery. I got worse. I had a punctured lung. I had multiple surgeries, rods, plates, screws put into my body to put me back together. But when I finally realized, like, okay, I'd been in an accident, a car had hit me, I'm so grateful. Yeah, I love how great gratitude is just showing up a lot in this conversation. I was so grateful that I had learned everything that I had learned since the age of 23, because I knew that I had the tools to get through this, but to also to thrive from this experience. And I had so much awareness that, you can't ignore that awareness. No one can ignore their own awareness. And I was just too aware that this won't break me, this will make me. So I did a few things. When I woke up, I call it woke up, when I became fully conscious and I started to remember and be fully present with what had happened, the first thing I knew was everything I do and think now is a choice. Everything. So number one, I never blame the driver. To this day, I've had no ill will to this day for the driver. Number two, I knew that people in life, unfortunately, go through an experience of trauma and then they label themselves 5, 10, 15, 20 years later the way they are because they went through something traumatic. And I knew that I wanted this to make me and not break me. Number three, I know that my recovery, I could either make it about me or I could make it about other people. And there's really great lessons in this. Life isn't what happens to us, it's how we deal with it. Our life for our business isn't about us, it's about what we do for others. And the first thing that I shared, which is everything is a choice. So look way beyond the accident, but in this accident, in this moment, I knew everything's a choice. Well, life's not what happens to me. This is not what happens to me. This is what I do with this. This is going to make me, not break me. And three, my recovery will not be about me. I'm going to make this about other people, and I'm going to show people what is possible, which is why I set that goal to a year later, just over a year later, climb summit Mount Kilimanjaro, even though I almost died. It was just to show people what is possible. And then that was my focus, to choose responsibly every day, to focus on what I could, to do the things that make me feel better, and to share my journey with others in a way that it's inspirational and encourages other people to get out of their own story. One of my coaches, Lisa Nichols, says, stories are powerful, but stand on your story, not in your story. Like, it's inspirational when you're standing on your story. It's not inspiring when you're still in your story talking about it, because it's uncomfortable for people to listen to. Get on top of your story, own your fucking story, because your story happened to you, but it didn't happen for you. And I knew that this happened for other people. I told you that when I was 25 years old, I made a commitment to allow others to take themselves, or help others to go from suffering to surviving to thriving. I wanted to show other people the tools, the ways, my insights, I wanted to share my experiences so they could get the best out of their lives. And in this situation that I was gifted, right? Even though it was and still is, because I still have very extreme PTSD, because my body remembers it, my brain doesn't. I'm in conflict with myself every day. Some days are easier than others, but some days are really fucking hard because my body's like in the accident and my mind doesn't know how to deal with it because I can't freaking process it. But I knew in that moment that was a gift. It was a gift because all I've ever wanted to do is help people. But I didn't have the permission to help people that have been through trauma or anything physical. I disqualified. I'm not saying, I'm not good enough. I disqualified myself from that because I believe you have to give people what you have had, or guide people in the area that you have been, or teach what you know, or walk your talk, etc., etc. And honestly, I lay there in my bed looking at the ceiling in tears. And I thought, how many more people in my life can I now help get out of suffering because of this physical trauma experience that I've been through? Anyway, that's it.
Mate, I could sit and listen to you for hours talking about how you've turned adversity into an advantage in your life, and how you've not just done it for you, but also done it to help other people, and given your life's work to helping other people through things that you once thought you weren't able to do yourself. So I think I'd like to take off my metaphorical hat to you, and also for many reasons. And I know that we're strapped for time today, but I would absolutely love to talk more about this with you another time. So I feel like there will be a part 2 of this if you're happy to come on again and chat with me some more. But from me, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for coming on and discussing this with us. I know the listeners will love this episode. I think that there's a lot to take away from it, practically as well as also, physically and emotionally as well. I think there's a lot to take in there. If people wanted to find out a bit more about you, JP, this is the first time they've heard about you and have no idea what you're talking about and want to find out a bit more, where can they go to find your stuff?
So I've been on Facebook for a very long time, but I feel like I'm moving more and more away from it. Instagram is my number one social media platform. My name, Jean-Pierre De Villiers, or type in JPDV, my initials. I love having conscious conversations. So definitely add me on Clubhouse. I manage my energy on Clubhouse. I'm in there for a day, then I'm off for 2 days, in there for a day, off for 2 days. But I'd really like to get to a point. I have a vision to be able to get to a point where we're just having global conscious conversations about healing, about deep work, about life fitness. And I'd love to connect with anyone there. So Clubhouse and Instagram. Otherwise, my website is myname.com.
Fantastic. I will link all of those in the show notes below, along with any websites and things as well that you'd like me to share with the audience. JP, from me personally, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I absolutely loved having this conversation, and I do look forward to hopefully having you back on in the near future when we can dive even deeper into the world of yourself and your challenges and your advantages that you've had in your life. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to part 2. Thanks, Jack.
Cheers.